everybody, it's Dr. Christy Taylor, and I'm back to share another story. As you know, it is Fibroid Awareness Month, and all month long, we have been having women sharing their stories and experiences with fibroids. And it can be something difficult to talk about, and we hope that by bringing awareness to this, that more women will open up and share their personal stories. Now, all month long, I have been sharing these stories as a part of my pageant platform, but today I am here in a different capacity with a fellow pageant sister. A couple of weeks ago, we both competed in the America's Classic Miss Pageant System, and we had a wonderful time. We had an opportunity to get to know each other, and we discussed, our stories and our experiences. So I'm excited to introduce today Dr. Bethanie Mickles. And Bethanie, tell us your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then we'll jump right into your experience and background in fibroids.
Hey, hello, everyone. I am Bethanie Mickles, Esquire, and I am an attorney and an administrative law judge and hearings officer for the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles in Richmond, Virginia. I'm a proud 2005 summa cum laude graduate of North Carolina Central University School of Law, proud HBCU graduate. I am also the owner and artistic director of World of Dance Performing Arts Company, which is an international dance company that travels and performs dances from around the world, literally around the world. And we are based in Lynchburg, Virginia. Additionally, I am the 2026 America's Classic Miss National Mega Supreme.
Thank you so much. So before we jump into this conversation about fibroids, I want to talk to you about how you got into pageantry. I had an opportunity. What I love about this, I didn't start until I was 40 years old. I actually just kind of registered for my first pageant on a whim. I love the sisterhood. I love the experience, and I've been doing it ever since. And I am so excited to just, be able to connect with other women who have been in this space. So how did you get into pageantry? And then we'll jump into our discussion on fibroids.
Well, I got the pageant bug early. So I started as a child. So when I was a baby, my mother entered me into a baby contest at a church. And then, I just grew to love it. Like I've always loved performing because I'm a dancer and a musician. And then I competed in high school and won scholarship money for college. And then I just continued competing, into graduate school, law school, and even as an adult. And I have won over 100 titles in my pageant life. And so I just love it. And I will never stop. I will say that. And I've won internationally, nationally, regionally, statewide, and locally. So I just love it. It is a great way for community service, also a great way to promote a platform and then to meet other like-minded individuals who want to make a difference and be that positive change in their communities.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And so I'm so proud of you for all the work that you've done. This is my first national title, this Supreme Queen title. And it really was great to literally 1 week later, I was using it to host an event at a children's festival. So it is a way to bring attention because as soon as I introduced that crown and that sash, I had so many people gravitating toward me. I was taking so many pictures with children, the elderly, and it was just a great way, like you said, to bring attention to a platform. So a lot of people think that we come into this. Yes, I love wearing the fabulous dresses.
Of course. Of course.
Right. But it is a great way to represent a platform. And so that's what we're here today to do, because as I mentioned earlier, it is Fibroid Awareness Month. And you and I were just talking during the pageant. I was telling you some of the work that I was doing, and you shared your stories about your story and your journey with fibroids. And so when did you first realize that something wasn't right? And what was the process of getting diagnosed with fibroids?
Well, I will say this, fibroids run in my family. So I have several older female relatives who had issues with fibroids, ended up having, hysterectomies. And you didn't find this out until later on because, back in the day, it wasn't really commonplace to talk about feminine health issues. So things like fibroids were not really talked about. There was kind of a stigma around having any of those types of issues. And especially if you had to get a hysterectomy, people came up with all types of excuses, as to, I went to have surgery for my stomach, but it really was a hysterectomy, they were having because they didn't want to share that. So first and foremost, they run in my family. So I have, multiple female relatives who had issues. And so for me, I would say from the early days, I would have like these very painful periods. And so, and when I say painful, I mean really painful, where you are literally, balled up in the bed, crunched up in a ball, and you just have like excruciating pain. And, it really impacts your day-to-day function during that month, when that each month, like when that week comes and, you have your period, it just was miserable. And so, and the pain was just, ridiculous. And I really noticed that when I was in high school and as an undergraduate. And then, of course, when I got into graduate school and law school, I was in my later 20s. And so I still had issues then. Only when I got to maybe my mid 30s, early 40s, did I see like some relief with the symptoms. Yeah. But those, I mean, it was like every month, and it wasn't, if it's going to happen, it's just like, when is it going to come? And it really impacted my day-to-day functioning. And so then when I went to my gynecologist, basically, what they told me back then was that, oh, you can take, birth control pills, and that will, help regulate the hormones. And I didn't want to do that because I just don't like, birth control pills.
I'm the same way. And I'm literally a health educator. I just now started taking birth control again. I think I took one round of like a depot shot, and it just made me so sick. And yes. To what you're saying, in my 20s, I had very heavy periods, and did not realize what was going on. I just thought it was the norm until I was officially diagnosed with fibroids. And then that's when my family actually shared with me, like my grandmother said, "Hey, I had fibroids too."
And so that was basically how mine worked. And then I didn't want to take the birth control pills, and so they it was basically kind of a wait and see type of thing. And then the doctor asked me, are you planning to become a mother or have any children? And that was not something that I wanted to do. And so I said, no, I'm not planning to have any children at this time. But if the doctor said, if you do, then we'll need to chat about that, because you may have to have some removed, or we may have to try some other methods, because it may impede your ability to have children. But because that was not on my radar of things to do, I said, okay, well, we can just do a wait and see, and then kind of some lifestyle things that I adopted to make the months easier, when those months would come and I'd have the symptoms.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about that too, because that's going to be one of the things we talk about in this interview. So just in general, so what I loved about this experience of interviewing different women and getting different perspectives is that each woman has had her own journey. I had the opportunity to interview a young lady last night. We're going to feature their interview tomorrow, and a young lady I even had from the UK. And we've talked about some of the pain and the experiences of some women that I've interviewed. They've had the opportunity to have children. Someone like me, I wanted children, unfortunately have not had children, but that might just be because I haven't met the right person, right? But I have been pregnant before, had a miscarriage as a result of fibroids. And so, experiencing that always made it feel very. And so you one of the first people you said, hey, children for me was not on the radar. And so what I love about that is that women coming in and sharing different stories and different perspectives, right? So if you're tuning in, we've interviewed women who have had full hysterectomies, who've done the myomectomy, who said, in Bethany's case, she said, okay, I don't even want to be on medication, right? I don't even want to have children. So I will just do. So I want you guys to see all of these different experiences and perspectives, that you don't have to put yourself in a box of things you want, or, experiences you want to have, because so many women have experienced this I think the young lady last night said that this impacts 70% of women. So, it impacts our lives, and especially Black women.
Yes.
Right. We are disproportionately affected. So we just talk about how has it affected your life personally, professionally, emotionally, and physically? Let's dive a little bit deeper into that part of the conversation.
So for me, literally, I would dread my monthly cycles coming, because I knew that, I wasn't going to be able to do a lot of the things, that I wanted to do, because I was going to be feeling miserable.
Did you find it hard to explain it? Like I was so embarrassed if I had a male supervisor to just try to be like, I got to stay at home.
Yeah, what I mean? I would tell them, because, it is what it is, and then, such is life, and I'm like, if they don't know about it, you need to know about it. And so I have always been open and honest with, people that I worked with, or, friends and family, or, people that are in my different organizations, if I'm not feeling good, I will just say, I'm not feeling good, I have cramps, or, whatever the case may be. And people understood, because, like I said, especially when I was college age, high school age, and then I'd say like, the 20s, like the teens, the 20s, the early 30s. That's when I really, really experienced the painful, and then also heavy periods. So they weren't just like painful, but they were also heavy.
Doubling
And
up on pads, having to wear the
yes,
pins, like
having
things
to
that
wear like
women,
two
we want to look
pads
pretty, but
sometimes.
we
Yeah,
don't want to say that out
right.
loud, right? That
And then you have to
we are
like, yeah, be
experiencing
very
that.
mindful about like, what colors you wear,
Wearing.
during that month, and then that type of thing. So, and then if you have to travel or something like that, like, it would
I just
like
with plan to travel,
try
like,
to plan
okay,
travel
around
around that,
around me,
an
right? I'm like, I
activity.
can't go because my period's gonna be,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like it gets, so people don't realize how. What did you suffer from, anemia or anything like that?
So I did not. Only later in life was I diagnosed with anemia, but that was due to like a different condition. It was not due to that. But I mean, I would feel very drained. I would say that. But luckily, I'm a very active person, and I do eat well. So I was always able, I guess, to make it up. I was never diagnosed, during those years or anything with having anemia. But I know I would feel, just tired, and you just don't want to do anything. And like I said, it really impedes, what you want to do, and, plans and things that you have. So definitely.
So now let's talk about the lifestyle. What lifestyle changes did you make? Treatments, self-care practices do you have that help you cope with dealing with fibroids?
So mine is a lot of it is exercise and diet. So I don't eat red meat at all. I also don't eat pork at all, or any, really any type of hooved, mammal. So that would be like, venison, that would be, lamb, that type of thing. None of
I'm
those
gonna
things.
just put my head over here in shame.
So for me, it's only like, as far as meat, fish, chicken, and turkey, and then, vegetables and fruits. And then I found that movement, because, like I said, I have a dance company that I started in 2006. And so I've been dancing since I was 5. So dance is my love. And I found that even when I felt horrible, with the cramps and so forth, if I would get up and move, it would help me to feel better. And so I've always been a staunch supporter. So my platform has always been dance fitness. It's called Dance for Your Life, movement and dance towards healthier living. And so for me, that has always been the key to whatever physical problem I may have been experiencing. So anytime, I felt bad or my energy was low, I would force myself, to get up and move. And so as long as I started like moving and dancing, even if it was something just light, it does wonders for the body. And, not to mention, it builds bone density, and then it, helps with blood pressure regulation, blood sugar regulation, all of that. Dance and movement, is key to health. And it's definitely has been key to me making it through with the fibroids, that, and like I said, the dietary changes, but also a high fiber diet. So, broccoli is my favorite vegetable. So I could eat that for all meals of the day. But, even things like apples, are very good, when you are trying to control your symptoms and feel better. And, just simple things like that. They have a long list, if you'll see, when they say, oh,
I've done
eat
eating for my
all
blood
these
type.
fancy things. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not a big fancy eater, just give me something simple. So just like simple things. But I found that having a high fiber diet, and of course, staying hydrated, and using a heating pad too. Like when you have those symptoms, like I keep a heating pad like in my office, so even, and of course in my bedroom at my house, but even in my office, just like a heating pad, like if you have one of those days when you're just feeling, crampy and achy, that helps. And also, warm baths and things like that also help, when you have those symptoms.
Yeah, and also don't forget the iron too, right? So, but if you're eating healthy,
I take iron gummies.
Yeah, I definitely, especially the start of your period. Well, you should be eating iron all the time, but I even eat sardines now. I try to eat high fiber kale sardines. Yeah.
But it really helps. It really
does. It helps you feel better. And for myself, because I have such a hard time absorbing iron, I just recently had a myomectomy. When I say recently, that was a year ago, and I still am struggling. So, you know what I mean? So that was not necessarily the answer. So my secondary option would have been to have the complete surgery, but I just said I'm not there yet because I still at 43. I'm like, I'm still holding out. Maybe I will have a kid. But if I don't, hey.
Right.
Okay. So this has been a great interview. Before we close, if there's a message that you'd like to share with other women experiencing fibroids, please let us know. And then I want you to take a moment to really plug your business, your dance business.
Well, I would say to other ladies that have fibroids or other people who have family members that have fibroids, definitely don't live in shame. Like, it's nothing to be ashamed about. The more you talk about it and the more you have conversations about it, the more you can learn about it. And you'll find that you're definitely not the only one out there with the symptoms that you may be experiencing. So, and also talk to your doctor. So remember, your doctor is there and only you can advocate for you. And so when you go for your doctor's appointments, for your checkups and your screenings and things like that, make sure that you're being completely honest with your healthcare professionals about what symptoms you are experiencing and what you're going through, because there is, bound to be something that can help you and help alleviate your symptoms so that you don't have to live in pain and you don't have to live in shame, and you can do all of the things that you want to do. And so my dance company, as I've mentioned before, is World of Dance Performing Arts Company. We are on Instagram. You can find us at World of Dance PAC. And we are, as I said, an international dance company that has performed all around the world. So we performed in West Africa. We performed in India. We performed in the Caribbean, all over the United States. We've also performed in Central America, Western Europe. And in just a few weeks, I will be headed to Puerto Rico, where I will be showcasing Afro-Puerto Rican Bamba dance in Loíza, Puerto Rico, which is where it all starts. So I'm extremely excited about that, and I cannot wait. So please check us out. We have coming up soon, we'll be at the Celebration of African Cultures at the Harrison Museum of African American History in Roanoke, Virginia. In August, we will also be at the Carib Mass Caribbean Carnival in Raleigh. We will be there showcasing Haitian dance. So please come and check us out in the month of August.
All right. So again, guys, if you're tuning in, if you check out this series, it's going to be on our Work Global News site. Bethany, thank you for taking a moment to stop by and tell us your story and to share what you have going on with your business. I am always so proud to know such fabulous women. And I'm honored to be a sister queen and be a part of the America's Classic Miss system. And guys, thank you for tuning in today and have a wonderful week.